In the Taiwan Strait, a US Navy Aegis cruiser cutting through international waters on a routine freedom of navigation operation suddenly detected an uninvited guest. At 60,000 feet, a diamond-shaped silhouette appeared on radar, the WZ-7 Soaring Dragon. This wasn't a fighter, not a bomber. It was something more patient, more calculating, a high-altitude intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance drone purpose-built to shadow American warships, vacuum up their electronic signatures, and feed targeting data back to mainland China. Range 7,000 kilometers, endurance over 10 hours, mission track every move the US Navy makes in the first island chain. But in this encounter, who really owned the engagement loop? Did the WZ-7 gain targeting quality data needed to complete the kill chain for China's anti-ship missiles? Or did the Aegis destroyer sensors and electronic warfare systems deny Beijing what it came for? The answer reveals who controls the future of naval warfare in the Pacific. At approximately 1430 hours local time, 23 nautical miles southwest of the median line, the cruiser was conducting a northbound transit through international waters, exactly the kind of operation that makes Beijing uncomfortable. Above, at the edge of the stratosphere, the WZ-7 maintained its orbit, but the position was no accident. The Taiwan Strait represents the most contested 110 miles of water on Earth. It's where China's claims of sovereignty collide with international law, where the People's Liberation Army conducts what it calls routine patrols, and where the US Navy exercises what it calls freedom of navigation. Reports indicate that PLA drone operations in this region have intensified dramatically in recent years. The cruiser had every legal right to be there. International waters. The WZ-7 had every technical ability to be there. 60,000 feet is above controlled airspace. Neither broke any rules. Yet the mission objectives were crystal clear. The WZ-7 wasn't just watching. According to analysis from defense researchers, its nose-mounted maritime surveillance radar was designed specifically for one task: collect track quality data on US warships, speed, course, radar emissions, electronic signatures, everything needed to feed the targeting solution for a DF-21D or YJ-18 anti-ship missile. The cruiser's mission was equally simple: deny that data, break the kill chain. The Aegis system detected the drone first, long before any crew member could see it with the naked eye. The Spy-1DV phased array radar had already painted the WZ-7's radar cross-section. The contact appeared on the cooperative engagement capability display. High altitude, slow speed, loitering pattern. Characteristics matched known PLA ISR platforms. The cruiser's commanding officer faced an immediate calculation. The drone was in international airspace. No hostile act had occurred, but it was collecting intelligence that could be used to target his ship in a conflict. Rules of engagement were clear: maintain course, continue mission, employ countermeasures as necessary to protect operational security. Then the dance began. The WZ-7 adjusted its orbit to maintain optimal sensor geometry. Flying at 60,000 feet gave it line of sight to the cruiser's radar horizon beyond 300 nautical miles. Its synthetic aperture radar, mounted in that distinctive nose fairing, was believed capable of generating targeting quality tracks on surface vessels. Operating in the X-band, it could discriminate ship types, measure speed vectors, feed coordinates directly into China's emerging maritime kill chain. The American response was immediate but measured. The cruiser didn't alter course, didn't increase speed. That would signal concern. Instead, the AN/SLQ-32V 6 electronic warfare suite activated. Not jamming, that would be an escalation, but flooding the electromagnetic spectrum with carefully calibrated noise, making the drone work harder for every bit of data it collected. What the WZ-7's operators didn't know was exactly how much the Aegis system was learning in return. Those Spy-1D radar beams weren't just tracking the drone, they were measuring its flight profile, analyzing its radar emissions, cataloging its electronic signature. Every pulse from the WZ-7's maritime surveillance radar was being recorded. Every radio transmission back to its ground control station was being intercepted by the ship's electronic support measures. The cruiser was building a library. Next time a WZ-7 appeared anywhere in the Pacific, the US Navy would recognize it instantly. According to observers familiar with these encounters, the Chinese drone maintained its surveillance pattern for approximately 90 minutes, long enough to capture multiple radar snapshots of the cruiser from different angles, long enough to record the ship's electronic order of battle, but not long enough to confirm whether its data link back to the mainland was secure, or whether American systems had successfully degraded the intelligence value of everything it collected. Then came the helicopter. At 16:05 hours, the cruiser launched launched an MH-60R Seahawk. Not unusual, routine operations include periodic air patrols, but the timing sent a message. The helicopter climbed to 15,000 feet, well below the WZ-7's cruise altitude, but high enough to extend the ship's sensor coverage. The MH-60R's AN/APS-153 multi-mode radar added another layer of surveillance. More importantly, its electronic warfare system added another jammer to the electromagnetic battlefield. The WZ-7 couldn't descend without losing its long-range sensor advantage. Couldn't climb higher. 60,000 feet was already near its service ceiling. Its operators faced a choice: continue the mission with degraded data links, or break off and preserve operational security. They chose to stay. For another 30 minutes, the drone maintained its orbit, but the quality of intelligence it could transmit back to mainland China was now in question. Multiple US electronic warfare systems were operating simultaneously. The electromagnetic environment around that cruiser had become a maze of interference, noise, and deception. According to technical assessments, even if the WZ-7's maritime radar was collecting solid tracks, getting that data back to ground control, and from there into the PLA Navy's targeting system was increasingly difficult. At 16:38 hours, the weighty 7 finally broke off. It turned west, climbing slightly as it headed back toward Chinese airspace. The cruiser continued its transit north. No shots fired, no formal protests lodged through diplomatic channels. Just another day in the new Cold War over the Taiwan Strait. But the implications were profound. If this had been a real conflict, the outcome was already decided. The WZ-7 might have collected targeting data, might have transmitted some of it back to the mainland, but might and some don't win engagements. In modern naval warfare, the kill chain requires persistent, high-quality tracks updated in real time. Any break in that chain, any degradation of sensor data, any disruption of command links, and the multi-million-dollar anti-ship missile becomes just an expensive guess. The cruiser's Aegis system, its electronic warfare suites, and its helicopter had accomplished exactly what they needed to: introduce enough uncertainty into China's kill chain that a firing solution would be unreliable. In the sensor war that determines who gets to shoot first, the US Navy had protected its initiative. At the heart of this encounter beats a fundamental competition between sensors and counter-sensors. The WZ-7 Soaring Dragon represents China's most capable high-altitude, long-endurance ISR platform. Developed by Guizhou Aircraft Industry Corporation, it features a distinctive diamond-joined wing configuration that delivers exceptional lift at extreme altitudes. Operating at approximately 60,000 feet with a cruise speed around 750 kilometers per hour, the WZ-7 can remain on station for more than 10 hours. Its range exceeds 7,000 kilometers, enough to monitor the entire first island chain from a single launch point. The naval variant features a bulbous nose radome housing a maritime surveillance radar. While exact specifications remain classified, defense analysts believe this X-band system can detect and track surface vessels at ranges exceeding 250 kilometers. The radar's synthetic aperture mode generates high-resolution imagery of ships, discriminating between vessel classes and potentially identifying specific platforms by their superstructure profiles. This isn't just surveillance, it's targeting. What makes the WZ-7 particularly dangerous is its data link architecture. The drone doesn't need to return to base to deliver intelligence. According to assessments by Taiwan defense researchers, it transmits real-time data via satellite communication back to PLA Navy command centers. In theory, a WZ-7 tracking a US carrier strike group could feed coordinates directly into the fire control system for DF-21D anti-ship ballistic missiles. The entire kill chain, from detection to targeting to launch, could occur in minutes. But theory meets reality when confronting Aegis. The AN/Spy-1D-V phased array radar on US Navy cruisers operates across S-band frequencies with 4 fixed arrays providing 360-degree coverage. Each array contains thousands of individual radiating elements capable of tracking hundreds of targets simultaneously. While the Spy-1D was designed primarily to counter aircraft and anti-ship missiles, its adaptability allows it to detect and track drone targets with remarkable precision. The system's track-while-scan capability means it never loses situational awareness even while focusing on specific threats. Recent upgrades have made Aegis even more lethal against drone targets. The newer AN/Spy-6 air and missile defense radar, now being installed on Flight 3 destroyers, offers dramatically improved sensitivity against small radar cross-section targets. According to Raytheon Technologies, Spy-6 delivers 30 times the sensitivity of legacy Spy-1 systems and can simultaneously track targets ranging from cruise missiles to hypersonic hypersonic threats. While the cruiser in this encounter likely had Spy-1D, the trajectory is clear. American warship radars are evolving specifically to counter the WZ-7 threat. Then there's the electronic warfare component. The NSLQ-32 V6 Surface Electronic Warfare Improvement Program represents one of the most sophisticated countermeasure systems afloat. Operating across a wide frequency spectrum, it can detect, identify, and jam hostile radars and communications. The system doesn't just react, it adapts. Using digital signal processing, it analyzes incoming electromagnetic threats and generates targeted responses designed to degrade enemy sensors without broadcasting the ship's own position unnecessarily. Against a drone like the WS-7, the SLQ-32 can employ several tactics. It can jam the drone's data link back to ground control, forcing it to store data locally rather than transmit in real time. It can spoof the maritime surveillance radar with false targets, corrupting the tracking solution. It can flood the electromagnetic spectrum with noise, making it difficult for the drone to maintain communications at all. According to Navy technical documentation, the system is designed to operate automatically, freeing the crew to focus on broader tactical decisions. The integration of these systems creates a layered defense. Spy-1D detects and tracks. SLQ-32 disrupts and degrades. The MH-60R helicopter extends coverage and adds redundancy. Together, they form what the Navy calls electromagnetic maneuver warfare, winning the sensor battle before the shooting battle ever begins. Beyond the tactical chess match, this encounter reveals a fundamental shift in naval doctrine. For decades, anti-access/area denial strategies relied on firing missiles at known coordinates, ports, straits, predictable transit routes. But modern US Navy operations deliberately avoid predictability. Distributed maritime operations doctrine disperses forces across vast areas, denies the enemy clear targets, and forces adversaries to commit surveillance assets just to find American ships before they can target them. The WZ-7 represents China's answer to that challenge. High altitude provides line of sight to hundreds of miles of ocean. Long endurance means persistent coverage. Real-time data links promise to close the kill chain faster than traditional ISR platforms. According to analysis from the Texas National Security Review, the PLA views these HAIL ISR drones as essential enablers for its anti-ship ballistic missile inventory. Without them, a DF-21D is just a ballistic missile with a moving target problem it can't solve. But American electronic warfare disrupts that entire concept. If the WZ-7 can't reliably transmit targeting data, China's vaunted carrier killer missiles lose their targeting solution. If US ships can degrade drone sensors through jamming and deception, the hours-long sensor dwell time required for quality tracks becomes worthless. The strategic message is unmistakable. China's kill chain has a weak link, and the US Navy knows exactly where it is. This matters beyond the Taiwan Strait. Japan and Taiwan are rapidly expanding their own drone defense capabilities, learning from American encounters with PLA ISR platforms. The Philippines, recently strengthening defense ties with Washington, now hosts US forces specifically positioned to monitor Chinese drone operations throughout the South China Sea. What began as a bilateral sensor competition is evolving into a coalition approach to denying Beijing the surveillance picture it needs. The broader pattern is equally revealing. This reflects a new philosophy within the US Navy, not always to chase the most expensive technology, but to prioritize systems that are effective, maintainable, and deployable across the fleet. Electronic warfare suites that can be installed on every surface combatant matter more than a handful of exotic directed energy weapons on a few ships. Aegis adaptability, upgrading legacy Spy-1 while fielding revolutionary Spy-6, demonstrates this pragmatic approach. The pairing of proven sensors and adaptable countermeasures has brought the United States back into a position of electromagnetic superiority, and according to Navy planning documents, this is not the end. It's the foundation for what comes next. Yet the WZ-7 encounter also exposes real limitations in the American approach. Electronic warfare is not a silver bullet. In a prolonged conflict involving dozens of PLA drones operating simultaneously across the first island chain, can US surface combatants maintain the same level of electromagnetic denial? The SLQ-32 system is sophisticated but power intensive. Jamming requires energy that must be balanced against propulsion, radar operation, and weapon systems. According to technical assessments, sustaining high-intensity electronic warfare operations for days or weeks poses significant engineering challenges. There's also the question of escalation control. Jamming a Chinese drone's data link in peacetime risks misinterpretation. Does Beijing view it as a defensive measure or an offensive act? In the tense environment around Taiwan, miscalculation can spiral quickly. Without clear rules of engagement acknowledged by both sides, each encounter like this carries the risk of unintended escalation. China, meanwhile, is not standing still. Newer drone designs like the TB001 twin-tailed Scorpion offer longer endurance, up to 35 hours, and carry electronic warfare pods of their own. Reports indicate the PLA is developing AI-assisted targeting algorithms that can operate autonomously even if data links are disrupted. If the drone can process targeting data locally and transmit compressed firing solutions in brief bursts, American jamming becomes less effective. Cost factors loom large. A $2 billion Aegis cruiser employing multi-million-dollar electronic warfare systems to counter a drone that costs perhaps $15 million represents an asymmetric equation that doesn't favor Washington. In a sustained competition, China can afford to lose drones. The US Navy cannot afford to lose cruisers. The future trajectory points toward even more complex encounters. Analysts predict China will deploy swarms of coordinated ISR drones, forcing American ships to defend against not one WZ-7, but 5 or 10 operating in networked patterns. If that happens, the sensor supremacy demonstrated in this encounter may prove insufficient. So the real question becomes, can US electronic warfare systems scale to meet a mass drone threat? Or will quantity eventually overwhelm quality in the electromagnetic battle space above the Taiwan Strait? What do you think of this encounter? Does the US Navy's electronic warfare advantage give it a decisive edge? Or will China's drone swarms eventually overwhelm American defenses? Could repeated close calls like this spark a larger conflict over Taiwan? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth military analysis. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.